So again, this is our winter release webinar, for our first one for 2024, very exciting. And we are going to be navigating the new frontier of intelligent process automation. So if you need a refresher, we're building on a lot of things from previous releases. So I encourage you to go back, check out the recordings if you didn't get a chance to see our summer and fall webinars. You'll see a lot building on what we released in those in what we show you today. All right, so I'm one of your hosts, MK Wazalewski. I'm the product marketing manager here at ProcessMaker. I'm joined by my boss, Jose Maldonado, our senior director of product, and Matt McClintock, who is our silent host today. He's making sure everything runs correctly. He's our senior director of marketing. All right, so there's quite a bit in winter release, as always. So today we're going to cover these items, but there is more. So I encourage you to go check out our quick start guides and documentation so that you can see all the details for things we're not going to have time to get to in detail today. In addition to the full-length documentation, there are really handy quick start guides that you can use to get a quick walkthrough of all of these features. And then today, you'll see Jose give a demo of quite a few of them as well. All right, so let's jump right in. So first of all, we've been giving you loads of tools for designers, for designing great processes for years. But today I want to talk about some of the great things we're giving to every user who goes into the platform to do your work. And that starts with the inbox. When you go into your inbox, we want you to cruise through it in half the time. So we've given you sorting and filtering, similar to most spreadsheet applications that you're used to. You can also use our AI search, which we've given an extra boost with this release. It has smart recommendations. And we've introduced this concept of cases. So we can give a case title to each request that you submit. So from the designer standpoint, a request can refer to a process or sub-process or a number of other things. Cases clear all that up. So every time that you run a process, that you initiate a process, that's creating a case. For example, even if our time off request process has a bunch of other things, a bunch of other sub-processes and other tools, one vacation request is one case. And so you'll be able to find that one that you were looking for August 25th much more easily. Building on that case concept, we're now going to be able to analyze those as well. So you can track and measure all of your cases for your team using accurate case metrics. So you can count how much usage each process is getting. And you can track each case more easily through all of the different requests and tasks involved in it. And then you can take that and analyze how well each process is working based on the usage and other information that you have about that process within the Case Analytics tab. So I encourage you to check that out. In addition to those tools for managing cases, we've given you a whole new interface for finding and using processes. So you'll find a new processes tab up at the top. You can open that, and over on the left, you'll see a list of all the categories for different processes, including one to save your favorites called My Bookmarks. So you can save the processes you use all the time, and instead of having to search through a big list or using the AI search, 2 clicks and you're there at your favorite processes. You open it up and it goes to what we call the Process Launchpad. On the Process Launchpad, you'll have, if you're the process owner, you can configure it to show important announcements or instructions on how to use that particular process. You can go in, anyone can go in, and if you have the ability to start that process, you will see all of your cases there and the status of each one. So for example, if you have submitted a bunch of reimbursement requests, you can go in and track all of those without having to search through everything else that's in your inbox. You can also track key metrics for each process and use it to, again, like with analytics, keep track of how well that process is working. All right. Now, like I said, We've been giving you great designer tools for years, but now we also are going to make it so that you can launch a new process with little or no designer training or tools. So how are we going to do that? Guided templates. So if you go to that same processes tab that I was talking about earlier, you'll see down at the bottom something called guided templates. And when you open those, you have access to our prefabricated processes that we're giving you, where it's like a template that we've offered in the past, except instead of going into the process modeler, you now have a setup wizard where you enter all the information you need, publish it, and you're ready to go. There's no need to use any of the script editing, screens, any of that. You can launch it and then you have something that works right away. You can use your integrations or skip them and come back to it later. And then if you want to make customizations, you can still do that, but you're not waiting until you have designer resources to get that project started. And then, so that's a really cool way to use prefabricated processes. Any user can go in and just create one of our prefab ones ready to go, one of these guided templates. But if you wanted something customized, then we still have our AI assistant, which we've introduced in summer and fall. But now you can go into the modeler, create the process, and then in the click of a button, you add all the screens and scripts to it as well. So they're all connected to each other, the variables match up, and in a matter of a couple of minutes, you've gone from nothing to a complete customized process. So I think Jose is going to show you a little bit more about some of these tools in a minute in our demo, but they're pretty exciting, in my opinion. All right, so we have a couple more tools to help you manage processes, collaborate, and maintain control over everything that you need to in this platform. So starting with Collaborative Modeler. We teased this a little bit, gave you sort of a taste of it with the fall release, and now we've fully fleshed out all of these tools so that you can do more together. You can see other people who are working in the same process model at the same time. You can see their mouse moving around, what they select, what they move. Things appear and disappear as they add and delete them. And if someone selects something for editing, you will not be able to select that and edit at the same time, so you eliminate that saving over each other if you happen to be in the modeler at the same time. You also, in addition to those things, can use the communication tool within the platform. You can comment on certain things or message back and forth, and that way all of your communication is in the platform, connected to the thing you're talking about, rather than having to go search through emails or Slack messages or remember that you wrote something on a Post-it note. So Collaborative Modeler, this goes along nicely with our projects that we introduced a few months ago. So I encourage you to check that out. In addition, in the modeler, we've now added PM blocks, access to PM blocks into the modeler. So you can get to it along with all the other objects you can add. You can also pin your favorites both in the top of that menu and down at the bottom in the favorites bar for shortcuts. So say another time saver there. And finally, for the admins out there worried about security, we've provided centralized authentication for all of our ProcessMaker assets. So if you use IDP and ProcessMaker, you now use the same centralized authentication for both. In addition, we've given you a lot more options for how to manage people logging into the platform. So multi-factor authentication, as well as a whole host of options for password control and timers for passwords and that sort of thing. So that's everything I'm going to go over. I'm going to hand it over to Jose to take you through a demonstration. You good,
Thank
Jose?
you,
Ready
MK.
to go?
Yeah, exciting stuff. Thank you for walking us through that. Always amazing list of features. So shout out to all our product and engineering folks who've been hard at work getting these things out. And I'm happy to show it to you all today. So give me a sec. I'm going to take over your screen share here real quick. All right. Excited to take this for a spin. So here I am in my trusty browser. Let me just log right in and we can kick things off. All right, so the first thing I want to highlight is our new process browser. All right, so here's our welcome screen. I'm just going to highlight over here. You'll notice a new tab, which is our process browser. So let me show it to you all real quick because it's very exciting because our process browser, as we were discussing a few minutes earlier, is a new just directory of every process that is installed and available for your user. So users will find in the process browser only processes for which they have start permissions. This allows us to discover what is available for me to do, and it's just an easier way to navigate. Currently, we'd have to kind of navigate through the list of processes through this kind of new request, new case pop-up, but now the process browser offers us a very clean way. And you can see here, like we can search for processes, or we can search for categories, and everything is going to come up. Um, but it offers a great way to browse and find. Now, of course, if there's too many things in here, then we might get a little lost. And that's why it's pretty interesting to explore how we can bookmark some of these. So we have the processes for which we are most interested in right on hand. So for instance, if I come here, maybe human resources, I'm going to bookmark this employee performance review. Now when I come to my bookmarks, is right there lined up waiting for me. So now let's open one of these processes to check out these new home pages. We call them launch pads, the home page for a process, where we get a bird's eye view of everything that we might be interested in for this process. So here we can see some descriptions, and we can customize these kind of carousel images so we get a sense of what the process is and what it's for. Many times we just don't have any way to find out what a process is for. So this new Launchpad homepage really helps us paint a picture of what the process is, and process designers can customize this to their needs so as to communicate to their users however they want. And we can take a look at that, an example of that when we build one in a second. We have quick actions to start the process, immediate counter. We can see how many times this process has been executed, maybe grouped by status. So right here, this is an employee performance review. What's interesting about this listing is that it also offers kind of a one-stop shop for all the information that I want about this process. For instance, here are all my past requests. Every time I've started these processes or that I'm involved, I get an immediate picture of this. So I don't have to kind of go and tinker across request lists or task lists just to get a grouping of everything related to this particular process. So for instance, I want to go back in time and see my previous performance reviews that I've submitted in the past. They're right here. If I need to review something or fetch something back, I can see that they're completed. I can also see the ones that are in progress. So maybe we can see here that my performance review for Q4 is okay to sign, and I'm already kind of ready to get started with my Q1 for 2024. And in fact, we can see here that these are the ones that I've started, but we can see, people that are related to me. Maybe I play a part in this process. So in this example, we can see that MK's review has been completed, and MK's review for Q1 24 is in progress. What this means is that just like requests, I can browse through different tasks, and you'll notice that right over here, um, we can see what tasks are particularly in progress. So I need to perform my own self-evaluation for Q1 to 2024, and I need to perform MK's employee evaluation for 2024. So why don't we just take a close look at that? So when we click here, here's straight the task. So I'm just going to go ahead and complete this performance review. So store award for MK for an amazing quarterly performance at ProcessMaker. I'm just going to whip out a signature on it. It's already dated. Confirm and send. And just like that, we can see it's off of my task, so I don't have to do anything. And in fact, if we go back, let me just go back to the process browser. You'll notice that when we visit this process again, so the case is still in progress because it's down the line someone else, but it's no longer a task that I need to take a look at. my task for reviewing 24 is already completed. So right off the bat, I don't need to be tinkering requests or task list to find everything that I'm interested in a specific process. However, let's talk a little bit about tinkering through those lists. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the requests tab. Now, this is the list that we are all familiar with, so it still exists. If you have your Save Search curated, if you need to, if you still want to kind of browse your lists here, this is still available and it's as accessible as always. But in fact, it's even more usable because we've added per column filtering. So let's take a look at that. And this applies. We saw it on the Launchpad pages, and it applies for tasks. It applies for most anywhere where these column views, table views are. Let's say that I'm going to click on all requests, and there's a lot going on here, right? We've got a number of different requests and different statuses. Some have completed, some have errored out, different participants, different titles. And sometimes you just want to kind of zoom into some specific data that you're interested in. So for instance, if I would click here, search for everything that includes the text form, this search is not particularly helpful because this is doing a full text search across all text content, and it's a very common word, so it appears everywhere. So I'm not really zooming into anything. So that's why now full text still works, but we're introducing new per column filtering, which is pretty cool. So for instance, if I would click on any of these columns, you can see we can add a number of filters to clean up this list. So for instance, just show me those processes that contain the text form. So that way I'm not applying kind of a cross filter. I'm just focusing on this particular column. You can see how it's very performant. Now we're seeing just specific performance reviews, And we could string this together. So maybe we just want to see those that have been completed, by a certain date. So I'm just going to pick any sort of values here, but no, I'm not sure what I'm clicking on. But just to filter something, we can just make some selections here. So only those that have passed after a certain date. And you can see how it keeps filtering. It shows me on blue so that I know that I have some processes filtered, some filters applied. And you can see, we can filter by ranges, by regular expressions. If it's dates, we might want to select something that is between two dates. So it's a very extensive way to really zoom into the information that you're interested in case that your process browser doesn't offer that kind of a straight immediate perspective, and you want to get a better perspective on it. So these are some of the features for our power users to really appreciate what they're looking for and what they're interested in. And then I want to take another second to showcase a very interesting feature, an awesome feature that is the guided templates. So we're going to see in a second um, some of our improved designer features, but I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about how we are enabling regular users who maybe bring a very specific requirement and how they can add processes to the process browser without ever spending a minute in our own designer tools. As extensive as they are, as easy to use as they are, we still want to make it accessible for our users to spin up new processes, and that's what guided templates are all about. Guided templates are a new way for users to add processes to this browser, to contribute processes to their company's directory without ever spending a minute in the modeler. And so to demo that, we are shipping with one guided template, which is an invoice approval. So as we launch this feature and we start adding guided templates, they're going to show up here. They're like regular templates. If I wanted to add from a different set of templates, I click on all templates. And here are all the templates that we know and love that are available in our template gallery. But guided templates is kind of an additional layer of accessibility that makes it just that much easier to spin up, because when we click on a guided template, now we're presented with this wizard-like interface that hands-hold the process of spinning it up. So this particular example is about invoice approvals which allows you to send an invoice for a manager to review, and it kind of integrates with many systems. So it's pretty cool to spin up to set up because we don't have to, as I mentioned, we don't have to do anything on our designer tools. So let's just spin it up real quick. And what we're seeing here is kind of a helper process that is it's a regular ProcessMaker process that's running behind the scenes, kind of driving everything that we need. And it's showing what we're going to need to configure this process into a new template listing. So to spin up this invoice approval, we're going to need to connect our email for notifications. We're going to connect our HR manager so it can pull who my manager is for approvals. It can even connect to our ERP so it can kind of commit the result of an invoice directly into the backend system, and so on. So if we were to configure this, I can be pretty quick, punch in my credentials, then it's kind of doing its thing, connect to an HR manager. So I don't have mine handy, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this. But you just punch your credentials. Same thing for your ERP. Where do you want to commit this? Perfect. And then setup complete. What is this company about? So I'm just going to call this, those who remember my trusty demos of old, Veggie Donuts, save and finish. And just like that, we have our new guided invoice approval process straight in our process browser. Now you can see the Launchpad homepage is blank. It's ready for us to configure it, but I don't need to do anything to just get it started. And if I wanted to kind of reconfigure it, maybe tying one of those integrations that I didn't punch in, we can always just come back, rerun the wizard, and just go through it again, update credentials, and it'll work flawlessly. Let's just kick it off. What this particular process does, it has a web entry, so you can send it to, you can, maybe bookmark it on your phone or use what have you um, to add new invoices. I'm just going to test it real quick. So link copied. Let me just open another browser session here real quick. Here's another browser. I'm just going to punch that in. And yeah, the process is working without any surprises. You can see here it's part of Veggie Donuts invoice approval. I'm just going to pick any kind of mock um, sample invoice that I might have in here. Let's try this real quick. All right, where do you want to send this to keep us posted? All right, well, we don't need to run through this entire process, but the process, as you can see, is already created off of a template, and it works from day one. I didn't really need to um, do anything in the modeler or the designer or the screen builder, as fun as those tools are. All right, so let me just scoot this back out. All right, so we saw how easy it is to create new processes as regular designers using our guided templates that will kind of handhold you through that. But now let's take a look of some um, of our more feature-rich capabilities for designers, specifically what we've created with AI asset generation. So for that, I'm jumping into this new instance where we can get started. So I'm just going to jump right in and create a new process, build our own because we want to start from scratch. And I'm just going to call it our webinar process. And this we'll get a chance to replace this in a second. All right, I'm not going to do anything else at this point. And then create with AI. So of course I could start dragging some elements, but we want to play with this real quick. Let's type out a simple prompt. How about create a process to borrow a book from the library. Let's see what that alone will get us. Let's give it a few seconds. All right, let's see what we have here. Start, search for book, check for book availability, and issue book. Sounds good enough. I think it's great for our example. If I would tweak anything, I just nudge it so that the second task is a script task Because it sounds like if you're checking for availability, it's probably going to run against some backend library system or something. So let's nudge it in that direction. For that, I'm just going to call out the steps. So maybe first, user searches for book, then run script to check for book availability. If available, proceed to issue book, and if not, proceed to end process. All right, let's see what this looks like. All right, so I think it got my meaning pretty accurately. So now checkbook availability is a script and issue or not. All right, let's just use this. Of course, we could keep on playing with this all day. Notice how it's then recommending we update the name and the description. So we're just going to go with those provided texts. Awesome. So now we're back in our modeler, and notice how the AI assistant is inviting us to create missing assets. So what's going on here, it recognizes that we have a new model that has empty tasks. And so it's inviting us to just do an auto generation of all the tasks that are required underneath. So let's go ahead and take him up on his offer. I'm going to click on create now. So notice what's happening is the engine is going to run from task to task, auto generating the assets, and it's doing so only in the context of what the process is. We haven't nudged it in any other direction. So let's see what it comes up with. Let's give it a few seconds. All right, and so it's done. It says check the assets on their corresponding tasks. Of course, what this means, if we can come into any one of these and just preview, notice how it recommended a form for of a book search, and where I'm sure the rest of the tasks do that. But I'm not going to touch this process anymore. Let's just run it as is to see how far we can get, only with the prompt and auto-generated assets. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this, and it's giving us the opportunity to update the listing of our product process browser. So just tweak how we want this process to show on that launchpad. So you can keep the description. I'm just going to add a nice little icon to it. This 3-star hotel looks like a library. Why not? And I do have some carousel images lined up for this. So let's just select those. And we just created these. Okay, let's do one more. All right, so we have some nice little carousel images, but that's it. I'm going to save this. All right, so in order to test this, let's just move on to the Launchpad, to the process browser. Let's search for our process. I think it's right there. All right, and it's brand new. Um, Process allows to a user to borrow. We can see our carousel images. I know they're a little over the top, but process designers can use them to communicate anything that they want on their process, how it's used, what it's for, screenshots of the form, and what have you. Of course, we have made no requests or anything, so it's brand new. Let's just run this process to see what it looks like. All right, so first task is to search for the book. Okay, and so here we have our form. Book title, notice it has the suggestions, the helper, text, book, author, genre. Now, of course, we could continue to iterate to create this pulling from a list, but let's just, put any book here. Let's say we want to get Harry Potter. I'm just going to call it Harry Potter 1 for time's sake. So this is J.K. Rowling. All right, and if we wanted to search by ISBN, it even created a list of genres for us. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on search. All right, the next task here is to issue the book. And notice we've got the task for issue book, which means the script already ran, and we'll take a look at it to see what it's doing. But also notice here how the form for the second task already includes the same fields for the first task. So even if as it's created additional assets, it's doing so in the context of preceding tasks. So it already knows that if it's going to use a book title or an author, it should just reuse the ones that we have. All right, so borrower name, it's going to be Jose. And if I have an ID card, when do we need to return it? Okay, so this is what, the engine decided we wanted to include in here. All right, so this process seems to be working fine, and we didn't make any changes to it. So I think we could make some very simple tweaks to clean it up a bit, but right off the bat, it's pretty functional for something that was entirely auto-generated. So let's go back to the modeler and make some very simple tweaks. Um, while we're here, this is a great opportunity for me to showcase the collaborative modeler. So I can come in here and start like recruiting collaborators. So I can be like, hey MK, um, can you help us out? And so she's going to be notified to participate in this process. Let's let's see if all right, and we can see here. All right, hey MK, we can see her mouse, and we can see what she's tracking with. That's pretty cool. In fact, why don't you select a task here? Yeah, if you want to tweak that script, it'll help us see. Notice how it's color coded so that we know what she's working on. All right, speaking of that script, why don't we take a look at what's in some of these assets? Notice how, um, let's see what checkbook availability is doing. So seems like it's a regular script. Of course, we would have to code it, but what's interesting also is that it's calling out all the variables, so it's also in context of whatever is coming from the task preceding. In fact, we can use this real quick. If I just copy this book title real quickly, we can do something like, let me just add an email confirmation here. That way we can demo something else here. I'm just going to go ahead and add an email task. All right, and then let's just scoot this task over here, and then notice how I'm just going to plop it onto the flow, and now it's just a part of our process. All right, we can remove this, and all I want to do is configure maybe a confirmation. So I'm going to send an email to myself just to be real quick. Give me a second here. All right, and then your book loan. And then we hope you enjoy, right, our book. Awesome. And I think this process is great. The only thing I want to do is let's just add an interstitial here. All right, I think we're good to go. Let's try this one last time, see if that email is working. So I'm going to go ahead and update this. Not going to touch the Launchpad this time around. And let's run it one more time. In fact, we can just run it from here. I'm just going to search here for our book. All right. So let's try that again. Now let's ask for another book. All right. Oh, in fact, you know what else I want to show? Yeah, let me pause this real quick because actually let's start that over real quick because on the other thing I want to show is, let me come back here. Let's search for the book. Here's the request that we just started and the one that we just completed. However, notice that it has generic case titles. So I'm just going to go ahead up here and we can configure this so that we have a custom case title. So this is requesting the book And then I'm just going to add that book title too. That way we can distinguish different cases of this same process. So from now on, it's going to pick up on that. Let's try that one more time. All right, so now let's do this. All right, so here's the interstitial. It's running through that script, which is not doing anything, but notice how it's preserving all my fields. Um, in fact, so now if we went back and I have it here to our listing, there we go. Notice how we have a new case requesting the book Dune. So that way we can distinguish these going forward and we can see it's in progress. So let's just complete it real quick, see if that email sends. I'm just gonna, all right, we haven't made anything required. Submit, task should be done. So let me just come in here. There it is. We hope you enjoy Dune. Perfect, let's come back here. All right, requesting the Dune is completed. So recap, we created a process. Where is my process? So recap, we created a process from scratch and it was entirely auto-generated. The assets were auto-generated. They were all generated in context, aware of what was created before, which allowed us to run it from the first go, and then we could keep on evolving it and tweaking it. So a lot of fun. This has been a lot to digest, but hopefully it's all exciting. So I'm going to stop sharing so we can get into some questions.
Thank you, Jose. Now we're going to move on. That left us with plenty of time for questions. We've been monitoring the Q&A, but if you haven't submitted there, we are happy to cover any other questions you have.
So there was a quick question that it was, can case names be changed? So we showed how it's possible. And just to clarify, you can include any variables from your requests using regular mustache so that it can be dynamic. And that way you can update them. And we saw some examples of how they're updated across different stages in the case. So it's always very useful. Thanks for that question. So there's a couple of other questions here that are being asked. What happens if two users in the collaborative modeler try to edit the same task? So it's a great question. When the first user selects a task, if the second user tries to interact with that task as well, they are notified. You see a nice little prompt that says how it's being worked on, so it avoids any overlap. Great question as well.
There are, it looks like a few questions here. I appreciate someone looks like saved up all your questions into one. So can you select which columns will appear on the process dashboard? I'm wondering if that's in the process launchpad. So right now, are those configurable?
In the Launchpad itself, not currently, but on regular task and request lists, yes.
Okay. And in, I think going back to the inbox, can you continue to show hide columns? And does this, for column filters, are they still there? Can you still use the sorting and filtering with saved searches? I think is part of that question.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's see. Can you customize the cards on the process browser? I think you might have answered that in your demo to some extent.
Yes, they are for you to upload whatever content you'd like to have it displayed there.
So you can upload an image in
Yeah.
addition to the ones we've preloaded for you. Awesome. All right, the comments added to the on the process designer screen are saved temporarily there while we are active in the process and then get deleted when we publish the new process, or do they stay there when you add comments in Collaborative Modeler?
Um,
Do they persist?
when we publish. Great question. So no, comments will remain as part of the history for the process model. So you can always go back and see what was discussed. You can reply to them, and you can use the @ as Devin, real quick to tag in other collaborators. So outside of the comment section, you'll get notifications within your bell icon that are linked to those, and that's why you also want to preserve them in case I'm only as a user logging in the future, and I'm only then being notified. I can still go back to the comment trace and find that. Great question. And just to expand a little bit, do keep in mind that these comments don't only apply for the process modeler. That's our latest entry, which is the first that we've added of commenting specifically for designers and process modelers. So that's pretty cool in of itself. But comments also exist in this same exact format for requests and tasks themselves. And equally, you can tag your coworkers if you want them to kind of peek in and to get a context of that. So excited about that.
There's a question here. Can you roll back to a previous auto-generated version? I believe that is referring to the AI model assistant. Yes, there's a history of all the AI, all the models when you create, use those text descriptions. That way you can edit your text description to tweak what the result you get, similar to other text-based AI tools you may be familiar with. So yes, yes.
That's correct. And if you commit the AI session into a process version, you can always roll back a version of the process itself to a previous state, to a previous published state, I should say, regardless of whether that state was AI generated or not. Good question as well.
I see Mauricio and Ryan. I see you guys answering some questions in the Q&A as well. Is there anything else that uh, I'm missing that you guys want to make sure we cover? All right. Can we turn off the comment section? Is it an option to turn off comments? You can always not use them.
Yeah, no, originally, no, yeah, it's not a non-off feature. Here's one for you, MK. When will all of this be available?
Well, it's available now. So all of our current customers, if so you have a dev environment where your team is testing to make sure everything is working as expected, and then it will roll out to all users towards the end of this month. For new customers, this is available now. So please proceed chatting with your sales team representatives if you have more questions. But all of this and more, like I said, if you haven't had a chance to watch some of our past webinars, we've come out with a lot this year. So if you've missed a couple, I encourage you to catch up. There's quite a bit of cool stuff in there. But yes, short answer is it's available right now. All right, anything else that product engineering leadership you guys want to answer in there? Okay. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up for today. If you have additional questions and you have a customer success representative, please reach out to them. We'd be happy to talk more if you want to dig into some of these topics. If you want to hear more, if you enjoyed what you saw today, but would love to hear what our executive leadership has to say on some of these subjects, especially on the topic of how AI is helping us give more people power to automate processes and be more efficient and get more done during the day at your jobs. You can join us for our next webinar, which will be Thursday, February 22nd, same time of the day, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be joined by our founder and our CEO. They will tell us more of their take on some of these things. And as I said before, I encourage you to check out our docs.processmaker.com. That's our documentation site, but it also gives you access to our quick start guides, where you can go through just a quick tutorial. It just takes a few minutes for each of these topics if you want to see a little bit more and take a little more time to understand some of them. So with that, I will wrap this up. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone for coming. Anything else, Matt or Jose, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just one more thing. We'll be sending a recording of today's webinar to everyone who registered, those of you who made it and those of you who couldn't make it. So look out for that in your inbox in the next 24 hours. I also pasted in a link to our website winter release page, so you can learn more there. And if you do have any questions we weren't able to get to today, please email marketing@processmaker.com. Thanks, everyone.